What is earnest money? Welcome to Jerome in Real Estate. I'm Jerome, a real estate agent here in Colorado Springs, Colorado area. Today we're going to be talking about earnest money and what it is. Can you lose it? Can you get it back? What's the purpose of it? All right, so let's get into it. So earnest money is basically just a good faith deposit. Quick correction right here. I've got a better way to explain this directly from a lawyer, right, so that there's no misunderstandings. Earnest money is an amount that the buyer and seller agree would be fair to pay the seller in the event that the buyer backs out of the contract. The overall payment of the property that you're buying, okay? Now, the importance of earnest money, right? Basically, it safeguards the interests of both sides, the seller and the buyer, right? If you think about it, on the seller side, it looks good that someone is willing to show that they have skin in the game for this contract, because you don't want somebody coming in, tying up your property that you're trying to sell, and then basically saying, nah, you know what, we changed our mind, we're going to walk away, right? That's the purpose of the earnest money. Earnest money basically says, I've got skin in the game. If I just decide willy-nilly to move away from this deal, guess what? Now we've got to fight over the earnest money, right? So a large amount of earnest money will usually show to the seller, okay, this person's for real, right? How much is enough? So that's correction number 2 for clarification. The amount of earnest money is completely dependent on the agreement between the buyer and the seller. Really nothing else. Each situation with your realtor, because they'll know, well, they'll have a better estimation of what's good for that particular deal. And who secures the earnest money, right? So this is going to be secured by whoever the closing agent is, and the closing agent will usually end up being a title company, right? It is sometimes allowed that the brokerage that one of the agents are working for will end up being the closing agent. Usually it'll be the seller if that's the case, but it's not really very common, right? It's usually certified. It's usually a certified check or wired funds that's going to be used to hold that, to transfer that earnest money, right? Let's see here. So what about refunds? How do I get my earnest money back if, something does happen legitimately and I really do, I have a logical cause to break off this contract, right? How do I get that back? Well, since it's secured for you in an escrow fund, it's just basically being held in limbo, right? You can get that back if the reason for you breaking off the contract is legitimate. And what's a legitimate reason? Well, during your inspection, the inspector found things that you're just not willing to deal with, so you can terminate the deal based on that, and that's provided that you have that written into your contract, of course, right? If you have it written into the contract that you must be able to secure a loan to purchase the house, and then the lender says, you know what, you're not actually going to be able to secure this loan, that's also one of those things, but it's got to be written in to the contract as well, right? So those are some of the reasons you'd be able to get your earnest money back. So could you lose your earnest money? Definitely, right? That is a 100% yes, you can. And one of the quickest ways to do that is to ignore the timelines that are stated in your contract to buy and sell real estate, right? If you ignore the timelines, if you're not doing what you say you're going to do, if you purposely don't close on time, right? Those are the things that can get your earnest money taken away and given to the seller. Best way to protect your earnest money, obviously, is to follow those guidelines and follow the timelines that are stated and agreed upon in your contract, right? Use those contingencies that we earlier talked about, the contingency of, being able to get a loan, the contingency of your inspection objections and inspection terminations. You can talk over all this with your realtor, of course, and just generally meeting all your contract responsibilities. Okay, so that was a quick tidbit about earnest money. Hopefully that cleared up a little bit about earnest money. As always, if you need further detail, especially regarding real estate transactions here in the Colorado Springs area, reach out to me, www.jeromeandrealestate.com. Click the like button, subscribe if you find this type of content useful to you. Have a good one. Quick correction right here. I've got a better way to explain this directly from a lawyer, right, so that there's no misunderstandings. Earnest money is an amount that the buyer and seller agree would be fair to pay the seller in the event that the buyer backs out of the contract.